forth with, should I open with something incredibly private, you know, that I've kept private to myself and I've only shared with the closest people to me. But my intention with this platform is to practice somewhat of a level of transparency. And given that this example, this story, this experience has taken place well over 10 years ago, over a decade ago, and I've since changed, and all parties involved have probably evolved and changed. So I am going to share this, and may it, you know, may it find the right person at the right space at the right time. So, betrayal. We all know it. It is, it's painful. It's incredibly painful. A very painful experience. There are many different ways that we experience betrayal. We experience betrayal of the heart, the emotions of the body. We entrust in people that we let from the external world, we let them and allow them into our internal world. And we then, when they challenge that internal world in a way that betrays us and our trust in them, it shatters us. It brings us to our knees. And you know, it's when you hold this person to such a high esteem, but yet you forget, or you become delusional, you become, a veil is covered over your eyes, you know, and you forget that they are also flawed, that they are also imperfect, that they are also capable of doing the worst to you and to themselves. So again, you know, this is the story that I'm going to share is something of dealing with a relationship I had in the past, and you know, and how that wounded my heart. You know, how that wounded me. And there are many different, I mean, family, you know, there's betrayals in the family, there's betrayals from lovers, there are betrayals from your closest, it's usually the closest people to you, but it can also be a macro, on a macro level, meaning your governments, the governments betray us, right? As a society, politicians, people that we put our votes, we put our, you know, our faith into, that they'll follow through with their promises, and they don't, right? Again and then again and again. And I find that betrayal can be one of the most cataclysmic experiences, but one of the most deepest and powerful teachers. You see, each wound that we experience on our path is a teacher. When you shift your perception and how you perceive these experiences, and it takes time, it takes space, it takes maturity, it takes growth, it takes evolution to fully understand the role of the teacher, the wound, right? So I am going to give an example of a personal experience that I have, experienced. And it involved multiple parties, but there was, you know, at the time it was a pivotal moment on my path, and actually a doorway into my own awakening, if you will. Like it really, really opened me up in a way that what I truly that's when I got my heart broken from an ex-lover, was an opportunity to really understand the true nature of what love is, and how love is represented, how love is expressed, how love is given, how love is taken, how love is received, how love is interpreted, how love can become, in a way, almost toxic, you know, how love can hold us back, how love can open us up, how love can set us free, and how love can imprison us, how love can, you know, cloud us, cloud our vision, what we deem as love, right? I think the word love is probably one of the most misused words in society. You know, we think, oh my gosh, I fell in love with this person, I just love them, I love them, I love them. But I'll save that for another video. So, my gosh, I will tell you my age. So again, I'm 32, going on 33, hopefully this year, God willing. And this was in 2008. Yes, 2008. It was the fall of 2008, and I came from a very, I'd say, kind of dysfunctional, but religiously speaking, I came from a very strict background. So in Muslims, we have a very specific way we go about certain things, like dating. You're not, if you're dating someone, then you're planning on marrying them. It's that type of situation. But I was very young, 18, 19 years old. I was 19 at the time when I met this person, and my goodness, it it really it blindsided me in a way. I will say it was late summer. It was August of 2008, and I was living my best self. I was living my best life. That was the year I cut my hair, or the summer I cut my hair. It was the year I you know, seeing another guy in the summer, and it just wasn't panning out. You know, I was in college in another city, he was in college in another city, and he was, you know, we weren't equally matched. And I remember the very moment I was so happy and thrilled to come back to college and get classes starting again. I was so happy. That's, I think, prior to meeting this person, I was incredibly open. You know, there's something really powerful. Like when I cut my hair, I was just like, free, I'm free. And I feel like that was I remember my heart being so receptive. And it was a long summer I spent with my father, and I was just really itching to get back to school. And so it was a huge group of friends, and it was like 2 weeks before classes started, so we're all pumped, we're all ready to go. We're like, yeah, like let's plan some activities together. And so what we would do, we would meet up every day for about 2 weeks. Every day we'd meet up at like 3-4 o'clock. It was hot as heck outside, and man, it was the heat was on another level of humidity, but it was really awesome. We played sand volleyball, and every day we all met up, and then we play, then we go and get dressed, you know, wash up, shower, get dressed, and we meet up for the rest of the evening, hang out and talk until 3 a.m. in the morning. And one particular day, I remember this one individual, and you know, he actually had his had his shirt off. I remember that, and I remember he was very nicely built at the time, and really just, he was attractive. He caught my eye, but I didn't really notice, and his hair was cut really low. And so anyway, I noticed we were serving back and forth, like, you know, it was fun. And I noticed he kept looking in my direction, and I didn't really think anything of it. At that time, I'd never actually been in a serious long-term relationship. I mean, you know, you meet a hot guy and you make out with them, you know, random, you know, in college, and then it doesn't go anywhere. And then you meet another hot guy, you know, make out, it doesn't go anywhere. So it was a lot of those, you know, of just getting a feel of what it's like to be a young adult, you know. And then he said, hey, my name's, and I'm not going to say his name out of respect, but I, you know, shook his hand. I was like, hey, you know, I'm Nadja, nice to meet you. And then kept playing. And then he was like, oh, well, you know, we should hang out sometime. I was like, yeah, sure. Sometimes I'm like, whoop, you know, but the next day I took him up on that, and he had his car, and we started hanging out, and we just clicked. We clicked. Oh my goodness. Within 2 weeks, he was like, oh, you know, I want you to be my girlfriend. Like, I want us to date, seriously. And I'm like, what? I'm like, I don't. And I actually I remember feeling doubt. You know, I remember feeling doubt, and I remember exactly how he asked. And I said, oh, I don't know. You know, I'm like, I'm wanting to I plan on going to France. I want to, you know, travel. I want to just focus on school first. You know, like I was really kind of like, wow, because no one ever had shown that enough interest in me before. And so, man, I said yes. And we were like two peas in the pod. Okay, the first year of dating, it was almost borderline puppy love in the way. Like, he would do the most cutest of things, drawing me little pictures. And at the time I was studying voice, I was studying opera, and so he gave me water bottles, you know, because you have to drink tons of water. And you know, he would just do all kinds of things. We just enjoyed each other so much. I mean, went on bike rides together, all like it was, I mean, people when they saw us, they're like, wow, like, you know, we just clicked, you know, because I've been in partnerships where there's no chemistry, there's no compatibility, and when you're around other people pick up on it too. But with this, it was just different, and everyone accepted the chemistry with us. Everyone was just like, oh, it's and Naja, like, wow. And you know, the first year or two, the first year was just like, oh my gosh, we're inseparable. Wherever you go, I go. You know, you sleep over here, you know, I sleep over there, but we're gonna always be together. And in hindsight 2020, of course, that's unhealthy, right? But when you're 19, 20 years old, what do you know? You're learning. It's a huge learning experience. So what did I do? You know, I just got deeper and deeper, and I lost myself into it. I lost myself. I began to betray me. Ooh, yeah, you weren't expecting that, were you? You're gonna say, oh, what'd he do? What'd he do, girl? Tell me. Like, he cheated on you, and he betrayed you, blah, blah, blah. No. What happened in those first 1 to 2 years of us seeing and being with each other and pronouncing our love to each other in the world, well, I lost myself. I betrayed myself in a way, meaning I betrayed my long-term goals. I betrayed what I desired for myself in a way. And I did this subconsciously. I wasn't aware of what was happening. All I knew is that I wanted this person, and this person wanted me. And it turned into something kind of unhealthy, you know, like his parents would make comments from time to time like, hey, you know, you guys need to give each other some space. And that's when you know, like now at 32, I'm like, oh, I definitely know what they were saying, you know, because they loved me at the time. They loved, you know, they loved having me around. I mean, I was over their home constantly. It turned into something unhealthy, meaning I wasn't putting my health first. I molded my life around this other person. I betrayed my physical health. If he was working out, I was working out. If he was going over here, then I was going to go and do the same thing somewhere else. Like we became one without knowing who we really were, what we truly desired, or what we needed. So that's my confession, you know. And you know, when you have a partner betray themselves, one partner betrays their truth in any way, whether it's career, whether it's health, whether it's personal interests or hobbies, family, the other partner subconsciously will feel that. And I think and feel intuitively that that's what took place. He began to feel suffocation. He began to want to distance himself. You know, I mean, if to all lovers who are lovers for the first time, you know, it's you're just not, you're unaware of yourself. You know, there's a lack of self-awareness. It's all about the other person. Everything. Even if you think you're doing something for yourself, it's all about that other person. So, you know, year one goes around, year two comes around, and then, you know, around year two is when we began to have things started becoming afraid, you know, not afraid, but frayed, you know, like things began to untether and become undone. And I sensed it and felt it intuitively, but I fought it tooth and nail. Because he became my home outside of myself. I betrayed myself, and he became the center of everything. And boy, oh boy, you know, it can turn into a delusion. Like, you become delusional, not truly understanding why someone would want to leave you, because you're so, the veil isn't, you lack no self-awareness. You just don't. You think it's all the other person, that they're crazy and there's something wrong with them and they're just not satisfied, blah, 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 blah. So, you know, we took, as students in college, and we were broke as hell, as students in college, we both decided, well, it was me first, actually. I mean, he took a trip to Nicaragua, so he left, you know, well before I did. But I mean, before I met him, I said, I'm going to France. Like, I told him, I said, I'm going. So I don't know how, you know, we're gonna work out, but I'm going. And he's like, oh, okay, cool. He planned his trip to Nicaragua the first year of our dating, and man, being separate from him was like, oh my gosh. And before, this is well before like the takeoff of social media, so we didn't have FaceTime or anything like that. It was more, this is even before Skype. It was just emailing each other back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And we didn't have smartphones back then either. So we really had to be very inventive. And I mean, this was only 3 weeks, but come on, it's first love. What are you gonna do? You're gonna overly obsess about it. So, but it was the summer before leaving. It was the summer before us leaving. Oh, yeah, so I plan to make plans to go to France and study French, because French is what I like. That was my thing. And I wanted to master the French language, and it went along with it coincided with my opera. So I was like, yes, that's what I'm doing. So around year two, he also decides to minor in Spanish. He's like, well, I'm going to go to Spain. And I'm like, oh, okay, you know, and then it all kind of, I felt like it kind of circled around him in a way. Like, he was kind of making it more like, what are you gonna do now? And I accepted that. Like, I'm like, oh my God, what am I gonna do without him? You know, and that became sort of the center of my trip. And to this day, that's something that I wish I would have handled differently. I don't dibble dabble too much in the space of regret, because I don't regret things. They just things happen as they happen. But my goodness, I circled that whole experience. Like, that was the meat, that was the core of me going abroad. And but that was just, again, me being completely under the spell of being in love. So that summer is where in all honesty, I probably should have broken things up. But yet again, I was shown. I'm not gonna go into details, but this person revealed something to me that was incredibly, it was something that had nothing to do with me. It had everything to do with him. But it shifted the dynamics and shifted things in our connection, that I was like, no, 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 I'm still not gonna let you go. And that was the moment where the universe, spirit, higher self was like, Nadja, 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 let it go. You both have to evolve on your path. You both have to evolve on your path. Because I kid you not, if I would have let it go, I could have received something. It could have been it probably wouldn't have ended how it ended, I think, if we both parted, you know, went our separate ways before going across, moving overseas. But no, I wanted to hang on. And again, yet again, I betrayed my intuition telling me. You know, he told me, you know, and again, like, I want to be transparent, but not so much where, if he ever happened to see this, you know, which I think is, he won't, but, you know, I would never want to betray what was shared with me. I have that much decency. So, it made me hang on to those tethered parts of our love, and which is really a borderline obsession, to be quite honest, you know, because love doesn't do that. It just doesn't. Mature love doesn't do that. But I was naive. So, and he was giving me signs. He was emotionally distant. He was pulling back. I mean, I felt like when he shared me that was something that was so private, I'm like, you know, like, it was, I think it was subconsciously his way of going our separate ways. But no, I took that as a no. Got on the plane, we shed some tears before hopping on that plane, and then I vowed, I'm like, well, I'm gonna see you in 3 months or 2 months or whatever. I think we landed in September, so I think it was around November, around my birthday, where I think I went to Spain first, or he came to, I can't remember, but that became my focal, like, visiting with him became like my, like a, you know, point A to point B, you know, like, okay, well, I got all this other stuff, being in a new culture, which was stressful enough, learning the language, being a stranger in the strange land, like, but I have him. He was like my anchor, I kid you not. Instead of me just completely embracing all of the experience, it's on him. So, while we were abroad, it became more and more distant and odd between us, and more of like me chasing him, and he's like, ah, and I'm like, no, come back, you know. And he was dropping so many hints, and I just wasn't picking anything up. I knew, as an energy worker, I knew in the pit of my soul that I should have let it go. But the reality of it was so painful that I didn't want to let it go. I couldn't face that alone. I couldn't see myself facing it alone without him, you know? So I hung on. And so 6 months go by, 7 months go by, 9 months go by. It's both the end of our trip. He goes back to the US, and I am in France for like another 2 weeks or something before him. And a relative of his was getting married. I'm like, oh, I can just change the date and we can go to New York together and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, no. That's not going to work out. And I just thought, why? What? It caught me off guard. Okay. I come back from the US, and, you know, we meet up in my hometown, and we go back to our college town, and we settle for the summer. And then that's when everything really just came ahead. And he confessed to me, my dear Naja, I cheated on you with a girl. I was under the influence of alcohol and all this other stuff. And you know, when they say that, like, you know, when you're going through something very traumatic and your soul leaves your body, I didn't feel like my soul left my body. I didn't dissociate, but I remember crumpling to the ground and just not even crying. I think I hit the wall really hard, but not even crying. I didn't let out a whimper. I just kind of just fell on the floor and just laid there. And I just didn't move. It was like I was just like so hurt. Oh my gosh. The pain. Oh. Nothing like it in the world. I swear, nothing like it. But it was painful. It was a very painful process. And what made that experience more painful is like all the moments that I betrayed myself in that relationship came back and just hit me in every direction. In every direction, okay? And you know, the place that I loved and I enjoyed, I couldn't stand. Like the environment, the college, my professors, like all these beautiful, wonderful opportunities and energy and possibilities died. And I couldn't stand being there. And I was just barely making it. I went to a counselor. I was bullshitting through all my classes, okay? Like my transcript now is like the last semester. It was just, I barely made, I mean, I didn't flunk anything, but I was barely made it. And, you know, come to find out, a professor spoke to my counselor and that just kind of got me again, like another blow. And then like he ended up befriending and getting help from one of my other professors, and that was another blow. And I'm like, I can't turn to anyone, I can't go anywhere, so let me just numb myself. And you know, I don't drink. I'm very advocate for sober living. I don't drink. I don't do drugs or anything like that. It's been 2015, I think, since. Alcohol and stuff like that, which I'll go into another video of why I don't practice that type of lifestyle anymore. But oh my God, I was numb, and I entered in some form of situational depression. I ended up I was shy 1 credit of graduating from or completing my degree. I stayed in the doors for about 3 months. I ate pizza pretty much every other day. Meanwhile, I was trying to maintain a new partnership with someone else, but we were both going under a huge healing process, because what's funny enough is that he also was recovering from, you know, a similar thing. He was with the girl for 3 years, and she ended up, you know, betraying him, and then with my situation, he betrayed me, and we just kind of linked, and it was trauma bonding, really. And but needless to say, I don't want this to be too long here, but you know, all those moments that I felt the feeling that it wasn't right anymore, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to go. I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have a grown woman telling me the ways of the heart and how to deal with a relationship that's falling apart for the first time, you know, and it was really hard. Most of my best friends moved away. I couldn't talk to anyone. And I think it's probably one of my loneliest moments of my life, but one of my most spiritually profound moments of my life. That is where I began to meet myself. And believe me, it was a slow, what am I trying to say? Healing. It took about 13, 14 months of me to fully emotionally heal initially, from that connection. It was just, you know, some people you meet and they just have a everlasting profound experience, or they create an experience for you that's so profound you don't, but it's a positive experience. Like it at the time it was hell, but now I'm so grateful for it. Oh, I'm so grateful for it. And so I'm saying all this to say that when you feel that something is betraying you, ask yourself, especially if you're being mistreated, if someone's really, really mistreated you, I want you to do this. This is kind of hard, but ask yourself, don't blame yourself. Don't blame you. But I want you to ask yourself, did I betray myself by neglecting myself? Did I stop respecting myself? Did I stop loving myself? Did I stop paying attention to my feelings? Because kid you not, when you ignore your feelings, you ignore your intuition, you ignore your dreams, you ignore your goals, you ignore your inner calling, you ignore your hobbies and the things that draw you, and you sacrifice it and you ignore those things, that's a sign of self-betrayal. And that will always be mirrored back to you in more ways than one. And so getting your heart broke and getting betrayed and cheated on, no one deserves it. No one deserves it at all. I'm not saying that, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't have a space where you're putting blame on the other person for causing you that much pain. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying we're recognizing betrayal today. I want you to ask yourself these difficult questions. It's taken me, maybe I think after that, it's taken me years to finally look, when I look back on that and reflect on that experience, I'm like, oh, I can see the moments where I betrayed myself. It was almost like my higher self was accumulating all this self-betrayal, and then it manifested in my reflection, my external reflection, which was my lover at the time, and threw it right back in my face. Just, and I'm like, put. I'm like, why? And it's like, because this is all the betrayal you're receiving from this person, is all the moments in this connection where you ignored yourself. You ignored what you needed. You ignored all your basic needs. You ignored if you know you were called to go with this person or called to go and try this experience. You didn't. You sacrificed. You didn't allow yourself to be. You betrayed. You betrayed you. And at times when you do that enough, you have big blowouts, like a cheating spouse or a cheating lover, or a job, a boss just kind of like cans you, you know, and you're just like, what, why is this happening? What? But I believe that the universe, God, higher power, source, spirit, always is speaking to you, always. And we choose to ignore because it's scary to look at the truth. It's scary to feel like, oh, you know what, this is almost coming to an end. It's a scary, painful experience. So I don't want to focus primarily on what he did, you know, to me, the betrayal he did to me. I mean, I just really primarily want to focus on the role that I played in that experience, because that is the key to forgiveness on his part and on my part. I can forgive myself for neglecting myself, and that playing a role in what and how he did it. Now, well, he didn't have to do it that way. I always wonder to myself, people who really like, they're like, I don't want to be in this situation, or I don't want to be in this relationship, so let me really go out of my way to cause this person pain. You know, I think there are people who actually do that because because they betrayed themselves. I think, yes, it makes sense. The people who betray you also betray themselves. They also hurt themselves very much. You know, like, oh, I'm so sorry, I got drunk, I did this, you know, I didn't mean to, blah, 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 you know, but they betrayed. There was a moment where they had to make that choice and a decision, and they went along with it, even though they knew that their inner self was saying, you probably should stop, and no. You know, so it's everyone, the people who cause such pain in another being, you know, they also cause themselves quite a lot of pain. So there's no winners at the moment. So I don't want to make this video too long. Again, I'm going to keep this between 15 to 35 minutes. But that's just a personal experience I've had when it comes to recognizing what real betrayal is, because we get it very thorough, like, oh girl, he cheated, oh girl, oh look what he did to you, he's so bad, he's such a horrible person. Stop, okay? Because you need to look, I know, like, when you're going through heartbreak, You gotta treat it like the grieving process. You really do. You really do. You're gonna go through deep sorrow. You're gonna go through deep anger, right? But after a while, when you get through these initial wounds of betrayal and of heartbreak, you have to really take a mirror and look at your fucking self, because you're gonna see all of the signs. You're gonna see the language. Something was speaking to you, but you're like, no, I'm not gonna deal with that today. Nope, I'm not gonna deal with that today. Nope, I'm not gonna deal with that today. Then blows up in your face, and you're like, oh my God, I'm so blindsided. No, you're not blindsided. You're not. Because spirit and life and the universe is always speaking to you. Your soul is always speaking to you. Your heart, your womb as a woman is always speaking to you. And we have to choose to observe, and we have to choose to become aware. So, if this person that I've had this experience with, if you do happen to come across this video, I have forgiven you. I'll always forgive you. I have no ill will whatsoever. I feel so happy and grateful for the experience, because it's open and wide and deep in my perception of my inner world and how to identify these hidden wounds within myself. So I thank you. To everyone else, if you would like to have a personal reading with me, a rune reading with me, or you would just like to have a conversation, please go to my website, www.silvertreesounds.com. Also visit my second YouTube channel called Sounds of Silvertree, where I update a playlist each Saturday for the esoteric, wise and wild women, men and women out there that are into magic and of life, and that, would like to create a space of relaxation and tranquility during their practice, their spiritual practice. So thank you so much again for listening, if you made it the entire video, and may we meet again. Thank you.